What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good holiday weekend. I don't think Sheets is going to make it tonight. He's been having me covered, so I appreciate that. We do have all the projections updated and everything, and I'm just going to sort of talk through this slate. It's a big one. I'm not playing much. A lot of stuff, family stuff going on. As I said, a holiday weekend and all that, but I'll just talk through what I like today. In terms of the pitching, let's start there. Let's grab Goldie's ownership and bring it to the forefront because I think it's a more accurate example of what we'll expect to see, although it's going to be hard to predict on this slate, especially. So look, I like Glass now. I'm playing two lineups. He's in one of my two. I think that's, he's the best pitcher on the slate, etc. I think Cole Reagans is a totally reasonable play, even in Colorado. And I have a feeling that, even with some ownership, I just think it's the right thing to do. I think you just play for the upside. You look at the strikeout expectancy. Cole Reagans is the highest. And then I would go to my next pretty obvious plays, actually. Let's do it by Goldies. I like Gausman. Actually, he's going to be a little higher owned than this. I think this is maybe closer to 25, 30, maybe a little higher even. I like Gausman a lot. I am not doing anything in the Boston-New York game at all. There's some weather issues, and I just don't feel strong enough about my conviction about any of the plays. So I am personally going to be using a pool of Glasnow, Reagans, Gausman, again, just two big lineups and one little one. Gausman and BB. Those would be, but even if I was playing more lineups, I don't think I would get that overextended to anything else. I think you could argue for Luis Castillo, but I think that's just not for me. Good to see you, MJ. Good to see you, K9. Well, we'll go through positions and stuff like that, but I'll just say, of the stacks I like, this is what I would do, basically. I would be playing this. I would be playing this, but I would probably not have any 5-man stacks just because the ownership is so crazy high for Kansas City. I mean, you're looking at it I don't even think Goldie's is right on this. I think this is going to end up being closer to what Saberson has in a major way. I really think that people are going to play the KC side a ton, even with the chalk. So it is what it is. I think if I play them, I'm setting my rule at 4 or less. I do think you could argue for Colorado as a super low owned stack. I have too much respect for Reagan, so I'm not going to do it, but you certainly could make that case. Oakland, I don't like the park downgrade for Baltimore here, but you certainly could argue for Baltimore at, I think, what's going to be pretty low ownership against Hogan Harris and the A's. This is an interesting spot where I would definitely, if I played more, I'd probably be looking at 30% plus of Dodgers lineups, maybe a little higher. I'd probably be looking at 15, 20% maybe of Baltimore in terms of full stacks. Kansas City would be sort of moved around through all those stacks. And then my other team that I'm going to be heavily focused on is Detroit. I think you could argue for the other side, either side of this, but I do think that just the value is kind of screaming that you can fit everything in. So Detroit's my side stack. I'll play the Malloy again. I'll play Keith again. They don't match as well with the Dodgers because the Dodgers value comes at the bottom of the order, although actually the Dodger lineup just came out as we got on. So I'm gonna have to make some changes. Ohtani. So we have no Biggio, Vargas is in there, Chris Taylor is in there. So that's going to give you some cheaper opportunities to build a Dodger lineup. And I don't think you have to worry about ownership. And I'm not entirely sure why the Dodgers aren't projected to be higher on tonight. I really can't figure out. I know Ohtani's expensive. I know there's 3 expensive bets, but everything else is totally affordable. And I think it's just a lower owned stack. And like I said, I'm going to do all year long this year is play the Dodgers at low ownership in almost any situation. It's just an elite offense that you don't know when it's going to explode. And it's a team that you're going to end up cashing a lot when they score 5 runs because you'll have 2 stolen bases and 3 home runs, just with the power factor too. I know they aren't quite the same without Mookie, but I'm going to keep doing it. So Detroit, KC, Baltimore, those are the ones that stand out to me the most. I think pieces of the White Sox are reasonable. I think pieces of Miami are reasonable. But those are the ones for me. And then I think you could definitely make a case for the Reds. I just personally didn't go that way. I have a Reese Olson respect thing. I don't know what it is. I like him. I watch him pitch. I think he's a good pitcher. I know he's still figuring some things out at Cincinnati at home. They're really good at home. But personally, I like the idea of just not getting to as much Reds today. And I actually initially thought they were going to be a little bit higher owned than they're going to be. And I think that, yeah, as a low-owned stack, sure. I just think, again, have respect for Olsen. So the Reds and Colorado fall into the same category. We're on the outside looking in, but if I was playing 150, they probably squeak into like a tiny bit here and there, but it's not like certainly wouldn't be any priority. So I'm pretty heavily focused on the Dodgers. Again, KC is a side stack. I like the Baltimore, even though I don't love the Park downgrade. I like Detroit. And those are sort of my main situations. You could argue for Cleveland in a bullpen game. None of these other spots feel that great to me. And you see it's a big slate with not a lot of huge totals, which is why I think people are going to gravitate towards that KC total, towards that KC number. I do think this Dodger run project, I don't exactly understand why we're acting like Aaron Savale is the best pitcher in baseball. Like it's a little strange. I'm not quite sure about these lines. It feels like an overbet for me on the Dodger side of it anyway. So that's where I'm at. And happy to talk through anything. If there's any questions or thoughts, please let me know. I'll go through my positions of what I'm going to be doing, but again, it's going to reflect what I just was talking about. And by the way, the Detroit stack, I would actually include Detroit full stacks as well. I would take some gambles when the team's this cheap. You could play Detroit with KC pretty easily, and Detroit is a full stack. I just think it's very, very reasonable at these prices. Simple as that. Anyway, again, it makes you feel gross when you pick Detroit on the big slate, but I like the Dodgers the most. I like. As they get different, I obviously like KC, but I think that's my side stack. I like Baltimore, and then I really do think Detroit is in a good spot, and I like the huge park upgrade for them playing in Cincinnati. So I'm high on that. As far as catchers go, for me, I have no issue with McCann, or if you're able to get up to Rushman for Baltimore, that makes sense. Will Smith, and my main one would end up being Carson Kelly at batting cleanup at what seems like strangely low ownership. So I will be on the Carson Kelly 2,700. I like the value. That's what I'll do the most. I didn't build all my cores. I haven't been doing that stuff the last little bit, guys. It's been a lot of family stuff. I don't really want to get into it, but it's been a really rough time. So I'm trying to be here as much as I can for you guys. But we do always have the projections to back everything up. And obviously Sheets has been filling in. Rody did a show the other day, which is great. But we're doing the best we can. Asking about Arizona. Okay, so that's an interesting one. I didn't really think like I was into it, but then I look at it. I don't like usually to take targeting games in San Diego on big slates, but if there was one to do it against Vasquez here, I think you could definitely make that case. So I'm good with that idea, MJ. It's again not one I got to naturally, but it is absolutely something that I wouldn't even not cross off. I wouldn't mind getting a few percentage of that if I was playing a big whatever on the full thing. I think San Diego is more interesting. If you're going to make that case, I think those are two teams that you would end up getting some of them if you were doing some builds, because you'd be getting different just inherently. But with Ciccone and Vasquez, two guys you certainly don't mind picking on. It's really just the stadium, but it's 74 degrees, which we've seen a lot of games in the low 60s in San Diego early in the year. There's not wind blowing against us, so that's good. So I'm okay with both sides of that game in general. I think I would have a little more interest in San Diego than Arizona, but I'm totally good with the Arizona idea myself. Anyway, guys, I don't have a whole lot else to go over. Please hit the like button, please subscribe and all that stuff. Reminder, we have the free trials for a limited time. We're going to be taking care of that pretty soon. So get in on that. Anybody watch the World Cup? That's been pretty fun. I've got a lot of good golf sweats going on. Well, they're not sweats, but I have a lot of good 6 of 6s I'll get through. So I do have the Hayden Springer in a number of lineups at 0.5% ownership. So certainly everything is possible in golf, but it feels good to at least be off to like a solid start. Put it that way, I guess. Anything you guys have, because I now have to go rebuild the lineups that I do have, because the Dodgers lineup came out a little different than projected. But I'm going to be playing basically exactly what I just told you. I didn't go through every position today. First base, Freddie Freeman would be my desired target. I think that if I think playing either of the KC guys is the chalky cash answer. Cut line's going to be -5. Rody to answer that one. But I've got I wish it was -8. I've got lineups where literally this lineup was, I think it ended to day one in third place. But I have the what's his name at 0.5%. It's Springer, who shot 12, he shot 59 yesterday. And I have him with all guys who are 9 under or better. So definitely some good hope there. I kind of wish that cut line was going to eliminate a little more of the chalk. It's not going to. That's what it is. Anyway, the KC guys are the chalk. I like that. I also like the Mountcastle and Baltimore stacks. I like Freeman as my favorite. as far as the rest of it goes, obviously for like second base, like you can fill in either of the KC guys, and or actually all three of the KC guys, and I have no issue with any of them. I think Garcia being the lowest owned is a lower owned piece in KC. I think he is going to be lower owned than some of the other pieces. So I like the idea of him if you're going to go that route. Otherwise, mostly it's going to be for me Colt Keith, and it's going to be the Dodgers. I don't even know what I've got from the Dodgers. I think Lux is in the lineup, right? I got to double check because it came out right as we got on air. Let me just double check the starting lineup. I know that I don't have it. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Lux is batting 8th. So Lux, Colt Keith would be my preferred targets along with the KC guys. The KC guys are the cash game play, obviously. I do like Vierling if you're going to be able to get to, if you can get up to him. I am spending down at third base a little bit. I was going to play Biggio. I think I'm now going to end up with some Chris Taylor. Angel Martinez, outside of stacks even, makes sense as just a 2K flat batting second. I think that's just a reasonable play you can plug in. I have a 4-3-1 with him in the 121. And I want to point out how many non-stacks are winning tournaments these days consistently. And there aren't that many people even doing it, but there's a lot more people, getting more exposure that way. And I like that. I think it means that, it's catching on to something that I've done and I used to get away with for a long time was being just a little different by just varying, my types of stacking. I would still, mostly stack, but I would be okay with the 4 and then 4 one-offs at times, depending on the size of the slate, things like that. But I did want to mention that. I just think it's an interesting thing. So you don't always have to stick with the raw 5. It really depends on how many lineups you're playing, but the less lineups you're playing versus the field max, I would be playing less stacks personally. I think it's just a good way to differentiate. Anyway, we move on. I mentioned Vierling. I mentioned the Dodgers. Obviously, Lofton is the chalk play. Bobby Witt obviously makes sense anywhere. 6,800 is a lot. I prefer Ohtani with the ownership discount, and it's not just one position eligible. I like Corey Seager as a one-off if you were going to go a certain route. I didn't get to it much, but I do like that play. I'm ending up with Ryan Kreidler because I'm spending down. So Ryan Kreidler and Witt in my stacks Bobby Witt in Dodger stacks is going to be very low owned. So it's because they're going to play Ohtani, so it's going to be really hard to get to him. So I think that if you can hold it to yourself and not play Ohtani, but play the Dodger stack without Witt, with Witt as a shortstop, that's going to be a very different way of building things. And again, I'm not expecting. We're looking at the ownership on the Dodgers. It's not, other than Ohtani, really not anything. So I wouldn't worry that much. But if you were worried, that is something you could do that's kind of just like way, way different than how people are going to build it all. So that's where I'm at, guys. I'm probably going to get out of here if there's no more questions or thoughts. I'm a little worried about that weather in New York. I'm sorry, in Boston. No, in New York, sorry, against Boston. Yeah, that's where I am. It is Ohtani birthday. Yeah, you get the Ohtani birthday narrative. Good job, MJ. Yeah, I saw that one too. I forgot to mention it. But yeah, it is the Ohtani birthday. So take that as what you will. And I wouldn't take it as anything in general, but this guy is making me believe things I didn't believe. I already think it's crazy that we can comfortably call him the greatest player in the history of baseball. I don't think it's even really going to be debatable in no time. He's without a doubt, if not the best hitter, he's one of the best 5 hitters if you want to be picky. And he will be one of the best 15 pitchers in baseball basically every year, maybe 20. It would be his downside. I just don't understand how that guy's not the greatest player of all time. And he may end up being the best hitter and like a top 5 pitcher, currently. Like, it's crazy. It's just unbelievable, this guy. Anyway, appreciate you all. I hope you have a great Friday and the rest of your weekend. Anything comes up, I'll be in Discord to answer, talk through anything. I'm just going to say good luck and let's get it, guys, as Rody would say. Rody's got, I'm sure, shipping